Welcome back, something new. Adrox. Remember Rachel Zegler? Her life is ruined now. And by the way, Rachel Zegler was the Snow White. Very cocky, very unsympathetic character. So, let's just start and see what this is about. By the way, I don't know Adrox. Let's just see.
Snow White was supposed to be her career's biggest movie, but was so brutally criticized, it instead became the one that destroyed her life.
Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am. That's hard. Simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Or perhaps it was all part of the plan, because decades—
I mean, I am against sending people death threats, obviously, but this woman was so freaking cocky, annoying, over the top because of the entire thing, higher than life. So while I am against death threats, I also don't feel bad for her.
Decades ago, Walt Disney himself said Snow White should never be remade, but they went ahead anyway, and by the time the trailer dropped, people hated it already. If I saw this movie on a plane, I would still walk out. Was it that hard to find someone who actually looks like Snow White? This comment made a good point. I just find it funny that her name is Snow White and she's not white. It just defeats the purpose. Petitions to cancel the remake started immediately, quickly snowballing into over 2.2 million dislikes, leading people to wonder why Disney wasn't canceling the movie or making some changes. Well, they did make changes. For starters, they swapped out real dwarf actors for CGI, which looked hideous. Instead of the beloved original characters, we got creepy, soulless abominations that looked like they crawled out of a failed video game.
By the way, and before that there were the diversity hires. Instead of actually hiring, well, I think it's dwarfism, dwarfs, I don't care. Fuck it. Little people, short kings, call them as you wish. Instead of hiring those, yeah, they did this. And had a diversity hire crew before that. F them for that, by the way. And the fucker himself, the guy, the little person that fucking played in Game of Thrones. Fuck this one especially.
And strangely, in a live-action remake, even the trees were CGI, which was an atrocious waste of money as well. To make matters worse, they removed these iconic tracks from the original, one of which being Someday My Prince Will Come, because apparently Snow White dreaming of love makes her too dependent, which only makes sense considering there's no prince either, just a bandit named Jonathan, because the writers intentionally didn't want a prince saving Snow White.
Yeah, a criminal is better.
Rather than an authoritative figure of any kind. It's as if the idea of a balanced relationship is offensive to them.
As mentioned, it felt more like a political statement than a kid's movie, and in case it isn't obvious, it was a garbage cash grab. The ending scenes felt like a Diddy party, and no surprise, people absolutely hated it. But there was one thing they hated even more: Snow White herself. Why? Well, arrogance, that's why. Back in 2020, Rachel Zegler
Fair enough,
called Jeremy Renner
Basically,
a racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster based on irrelevant allegations that were proven to be false. And when a user told her to learn the facts before running her mouth, she arrogantly replied, "Better catch my mouth cause she running." She never should have been cast, but this will be her last movie judging by her comments.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks
evidently
her.
so because it was better.
Weird.
After calling the prince a stalker, she said this:
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Now, in the beginning, her statements weren't that outrageous, although there was one massive issue. She couldn't keep her mouth shut.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
Zegler gives I Deserve This role more than anyone, and the fact that she has zero good to say about the original is disgusting narcissist, which wasn't wrong. For example, she seemed oddly excited saying her co-star's scenes could get cut.
I have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Andrew Burnap, great dude. all of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Which is funny considering she acts like she's making the movie herself. But ironically, she became the main reason people didn't want to watch it. And she eventually explained why. After Donald Trump...
And especially this behavior. I think it was the son of the producer that actually just flipped out and just called her out for the freaking bitch she is. And just went in acolytes like a freaking berserker. I covered that one.
Trump won the election, Rachel posted this story basically calling him full of hate. But at the end, she said, "May Trump supporters, voters, and Trump himself never know peace." Being completely opposite to the message she always preached. Clearly, she was a hypocrite as well, but Disney made her apologize and hired a social media guru to review every post until the movie's release. Yet the guru clearly did a terrible job because when the trailer was released, Rachel thanked the viewers for the views, but also added, "Always remember Free Palestine." Now, this wasn't a huge deal, but her co-star was Israeli and supported Israel. Therefore, the tension between them was at its peak during the promotion. The real issue, however, was that Rachel's tweet led to Gal receiving death threats. So many, in fact, that she had to be given personal security. Rachel destroyed any hopes the movie had left. And now, the internet was about to destroy her. Because before the movie could flop, her...
By the way, the funny thing, her co-actress...
Therefore, the tension...
Just look at those... Sorry, I mean, she's not an ugly woman, but the right one... You cannot compare those two. This woman is 10 times hotter than she is. Like, it's... This Farquaad look-alike just isn't it. It's just... not even close. Where is it? Did I...
Oh. Now, the internet was about to destroy her. Because the movie...
Yeah, by the way,
Rachel destroyed any hopes the movie had left. And now, the internet was about to destroy her. Because before the movie could flop, her face already had. Edna Mode, Willy Wonka, The Little Lad, Violet, Lisa Rinna, Coconut Head, Bayoshala, and the most accurate of all, Lord Farquaad. On Reddit, people stated, her eyes got beef, haven't made eye contact in years. Those eyes are drifting apart like continents. Soon they'll need a passport to meet.
Nice.
The hashtag #MySnowWhite went massive viral on Twitter, with posts like, "Why does Latina Snow White look like the long haul Roderick?" Hashtag #MySnowWhite. Snow White versus Evil Queen who is jealous of her looks. With literally thousands of people just roasting her. They clipped her face from the movie and turned it into art like this, while explaining CGI dwarves were used instead of real actors due to Rachel being 5'2", making her not much taller than a little person. Users were thrilled that Lord Farquaad was finally back, and for the first time, people were rooting for the Apple to win. Petitions to remove Rachel from the movie started popping up, with supporters calling her a nasty person, whilst editing pictures to turn the evil queen into Snow White. Fans disliked her so much because she has an ego the size of an elephant, but looks like Lord Farquaad's mom with the attitude of a whiny brat. If you think she was the wrong choice for Snow White, like this. Almost 10,000 people agreed. Things had gotten so bad, she was being stalked and receiving death threats. As Zegler shared, the backlash led to people standing outside her apartment, screaming profanities. But did she really deserve all this? And what did it do to her?
I think a lot of people are very mean, so...
Acolytes? Maybe this is a bit controversial, but even if you're a cocky little bitch like she is, you don't deserve death threats or being assaulted in any kind of way. The other shit, effing on point, do it. It was so fucking funny. It was especially rooting for the Apple. My favorite joke out of the entire thing.
So when I do public appearances, I get very anxious. I had an anxiety attack on the plane ride here.
Well, throw
She first explained how intense the backlash was.
Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am.
Almost quitting social media because it sent her into depression.
So I'm very hesitant to share a lot of myself with the world these days. I'm
Yeah, I
trying
don't
to be
believe
less
her.
active and less active and check less and scroll less and read less. Mostly because when I do look at things or read things on social media, it makes me upset. It makes me like a worse person, I think. It makes me, harbor a lot of feelings of guilt, doubt, anxiety, depression.
It got so bad, she even considered getting plastic surgery.
And also because I know how mean people get when like pictures of me surface on the internet.
Honestly, if you're so weak-willed that you cannot, at any point, take the shit that you throw, don't throw your shit. If you go in the arena and swing a sword, you have to be prepared to actually get swung at, for fuck's sake.
It's gotten to a point where
The
I
death
actually
threats were
had
too
the
far, by
thought
the way.
in my brain
I'm gonna stand with that point.
of what surgery and how much surgery do I have to get for people to finally stop calling me ugly on the internet.
And eventually, she started posting less and less.
I don't really like giving people an opportunity to use my content as a way to bring me down about things that I say and things that I do.
Then
the way
you
that I
acted
look.
The hate reached a whole new level. All she wanted was for it to stop.
I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats. When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain.
You had a luxury life. You had the chance to be one of the most beloved, in one of the most beloved franchises in the world. You fucked it up so hard that people made fun of you. If you just made a good film, nobody would care. Simple as that. Yes, you would have the occasional joke about you. That's normal. As I said, acolytes, I get the same thing. Even though I am a small channel, this will probably just be multiplied when I grow. Simple as that. And I also get a bit of a reality checks from time to time when I go or report about a toxic community or a storm with a toxic community like Hassan Piker that I just did. And if you're going in this and expecting that you can be this much of an a-hole as you were, and not get any backlash, sorry, you're wrong here. I don't think she deserved the amount of shade she got. It was maybe a bit too much. Death threats, threats of violence, definitively not. But I also don't feel bad, out of one reason. Because if she got positive feedback from that, she would have continued until this day. She doesn't regret the things, or I assume that she doesn't regret the things that she said, did. She just regrets it that she got punished for it. And that's why I don't feel bad for her. Except for the death and violence.
That's hard.
No, it's not.
And I'm there 24/7. I can't get out of it.
Which pushed Zegler to her breaking point. People have no sympathy for her. It's getting sick now. I don't know how much more I can take. It's haunting me. I cry every day. I just want it all to stop, she said. But sadly, not only was it not going to stop, it was about to get 100 times worse. Because when the movie was finally released, with a production budget of $270 million and $410 million in total after marketing costs, expectations were high. Although that didn't happen. It made just $43 million domestically and $44 million internationally in the first opening weekend, which dropped by 66% the following weekend, pulling in only $14.3 million. It needed $500 million just to break even, but made only $182 million. The movie reached just 1.6 stars on IMDb, making it the lowest rated film ever, and scored only 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Meanwhile, dozens of TikToks showed how empty the theaters were. On Reddit, when asked about how the movie did, employees responded, "I didn't even know it was out in theaters." Very bad. Between the 4 showings we had yesterday, we did 8 people for it. So, who was to blame for all this? Well, of course, Rachel Zegler, right? Because she directed the film, wrote the script, styled her hair, and told the studio to spend $500 million on a remake no one asked for, right?
No, I don't think that she is purely the one that's actually at fault here. She was the thunder rod, the electricity, I don't know how it's called. She was the woman that actually got caught in this entire thing. She was the face, and well, the face gets shade on if things like that go wrong. No, but she definitively wasn't the only one that's at fault here. But she still was freaking
No,
arrogant.
Rachel had no fault in the film's failure. However, the saddest part is that Disney themselves...
Bullshit. Bullshit. Really? Androx. Did you see the same woman acting as she did as I did? Of course she had her fingers in it. Of course she was part of the downfall. Yes, she is at fault here. Not fully, but she is at fault here.
Started using her as a scapegoat. Suddenly, it wasn't Disney's movie anymore. It was Rachel Zegler's.
Rachel Zegler's Snow White is officially the worst movie of all time on IMDb, so this is her fault. Really, Snow White is bad because this is Zegler's movie and not Disney's movie. It's her movie apparently. Like bro, posts like these, the review bombing on IMDb, and everything else in between the belly buttons have all been putting blame on Zegler for how Snow White is performing.
Disney blatantly blamed Rachel for the failure, yet the real reason was this.
But the reason why Snow White is flopping at the box office is not because of Zegler, it's because of Disney! And what's stupid is that they aren't taking any
it's not 100% her fault. It's definitively Disney has its fucking greedy fingers in it. I cannot tell you the exact percentage, but she dipped her fingers in it just like every other guilty person did.
Any accountability. Like I read this article where Disney was playing heavy damage control because insiders at Disney are using Zegler as a scapegoat. For example, yes, I agree, her saying that the original Snow White is weird probably wasn't the best PR move.
Which unsurprisingly led to even more trolling. She destroyed it, not Disney. It's Hollywood, baby. Zegler's acting was downright embarrassing, easily one of the worst performances I've seen. Disney got scammed, but nothing concluded that the movie was already terrible to begin with.
However, this was all when Disney knew very well they just made a bad movie. And also the film had issues long before its release, such as the ballooning budget. There was an unclear marketing strat, and apparently this was all one person's fault. Because the reality is that the trailers, the marketing, the songs, and pretty much just the entire idea of a live-action remake made people not want to watch the movie.
To make matters worse, the film's producer's son stated, yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous Disney IP with hundreds of millions on the line, had to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into promoting the movie. She hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, risking the work of thousands. Narcissism is not something to be coddled. I hate her comments and politics. It was awful. But completely blaming her is insane. Therefore, Joe Rogan said this.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, you know, don't get political. You're young. And I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the movie.
Eventually coming to this conclusion.
She's not 15 years old. Come on. How old is Zegler? Let's just see. Rachel Zegler. How old is Rachel Zegler? 24 years old. Sorry. That's not a kid anymore. You should be at this age at least wise enough to know that you're not shit-talking anybody. If she was 15, sure. If she was maybe 18, I would still have some compassion for her. But at 24, you're old enough. No, that's just, in my opinion, not. Nah.
So now they've put it all on her. Now they've failed. Here's what happened. She made the cardinal error of saying free Palestine on Twitter. So she could say all that men are bad and it's this and that, but once you do that, now they've put the entire weight of the failure upon her, when really, it's like making Jimmy Fallon apologize for doing a Chris Rock impression.
As a result, for the first time, Rachel started receiving...
No, I disagree. She did... As I said, I'm not saying that she's 100% at fault, but she played her role in this. She has also some blame to get. And everybody who says she's blameless, like this guy right now, no, that's false. Bollocks.
Giving some positive comments. I really don't like Rachel, but sending death threats and insults, that's just unnecessary.
Correctly.
You know,
Yes,
Rachel Zegler is
with
human. She's not perfect. She does things I think she shouldn't, and sometimes she says things she shouldn't. But nothing will ever convince me she's a bad person. No amount of hate will ever be justified against her. Now,
yeah, sorry, you're too naive, mate. You're too naive. I mean, I don't know her personally, not a bad person, blah blah, but the comments that she said are pretty negative.
It would be an understatement to say Rachel's mental health didn't take a hit. But after everything that's happened, it'll be interesting to see where her career goes from here. And turn
I actually quite like it, even if I disagree with him on some points. It's actually quite... Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. It's a good video. Gonna make more of this. Adrox, by the way. But as I said, my point is Rachel Zegler just isn't an innocent part in this. She just got, well, because she's the face of the entire thing, got the most hate out of it. And I am always and always will be a fan of actually getting the CEOs that actually should have the entire blame put on them, because, well, let's be honest here, CEOs don't do a lot these days. So yeah, but as it is, good night.